Hey, welcome back to Diabolic Shrimp, the least professional talk show on the internet. I'm your host, best-selling author and comic creator Josh Grant, and today our special guest is Ross Eberle. Ross Eberle has written these kind of sci-fi fantasy book series like the Sky Fighters, and it's just a great guy. And if you want to check out any of his books or his blog, down in the description below, you can find both of those at any point during this. In the live chat, you're always welcome to throw out a question. I'll bombard him with your questions. And but just a bit about Ross before we bring him on. Ross Eberle is the descendant of famous singer Ray Eberle, who topped the charts during the big band era. Ross has spent years building his epic sci-fi fantasy series, The Sky Fighters, which we are going to talk all about today. So, and welcome to those of you that are down in our live chat. Mr. Asher Taylor, thank you for coming on. He says, yay for Ross, by the way. Ross is down there listening. So let's go ahead and bring him on. Ross, welcome to Diabolic Shrimp.
Hello, everyone. I give you a peace. It's an honor to meet you, Joshua Grant.
Well, it's great to have you on. Like I said, Ross is someone I've known for gosh, I think it's years now. I've read a good half of the Sky Fighters series, so we're gonna really dive on in and talk all about that today. But before we get there, I always like to start with a bit of show and tell. So, Ross, what did you bring us?
Well, Josh, I'm so glad you asked. I would like to present this bow. Now, for those of you who have not gotten this far into the series, there is a female archer character wrapped in steel bow, similar to this one, but the kind she uses is actually a composite bow.
So nice.
This is a short bow, I believe.
Yeah, I was like, well, I like to teach people archery, so that's really cool. I was like, you and I can make like a cool battle squad. I got my samurai swords back here, and so I'll have a samurai sword, and you can have a bow, and we can go battle the Houndy Crunchers together, right?
Actually, we would be battling the Houndy Crunchers in training. Our true enemies are the Python demons, and we want to make sure we're as strong and capable as we are. We're going to take those Python demons on, Josh.
That's right. You and me both, Ross. So all right. So Ross, like, let's dive in a bit about you first, and then we can really dive into the book. So like you, I can even see the poster in the background there. You came from a musical family, like Ray Eberle being your grandfather, right? And so has that musical gene passed on to you?
I can say with all due certainty, which it has, Josh.
Yeah, and
I just want to say one thing. I feel like I don't practice singing his songs often enough. I've only just started to practice singing the way he used to sing when he was alive and well during the big band era.
Yeah, well, I guess I won't make you sing on here because I was like, I'll never make my guests do anything I don't expect to do myself, and I am terrible singing in front of people. I get super nervous.
I admit I'm going to need at least I don't know how many years, at least a couple of years of practice before I attempt to sing any of Ray Eberle's songs in front of a live studio audience.
All right. Well, you've heard it here. We're gonna make Ross get back on here in like a couple of years when he's had the practice, and we're gonna sing a duet, Ross. You and me both. And so we'll make Sky Fighters the musical. All right. So
if you'd like to know about this character who has the bow, I can tell you a little about it.
Well, here we'll dive into that in just a second. We'll keep going with and don't worry, we'll get there. And so like for you, like your grandfather, like he found his fame in music. What would you like to be famous for? Like, what would you like your legacy? Like when they say Ross Eberle someday, they'll associate your name with this. What would you like that to be?
Well, I'm so glad you asked. If anything at all, I would be like to known as Ross Eberle, protector of the wilderness and all creatures great and small.
Nice. Okay, awesome. And so protector of the wilderness. Awesome. And so so you have this love of the wilderness. Where did that come from?
Oh, well, I'm glad you asked once again. Sorry for repeating myself, but it's just such an honor to be here. My love of the wilderness came about when I was in my very early 20s, and my mom got me started with hiking. We went, our first hike was around Lake Okeechobee. We didn't go too far, and then we decided we loved it so much, we went on a second hike in the same year of 2006, and we went to Green Swamp West. And I wanted to see this concession stand. I heard there was an old concession stand, but we never found it. Needless to say, though, I had a really awesome time hiking in the forest, and we have made it an annual tradition to hike every year, at least once a year since then.
Nice. I love that. I love I love getting people together. I love getting people together in the outdoors. As you know, I know since you're part of Diabolic Shrimp, my website that this show is attached to, if our audience doesn't know, but we are all about helping out the environment and doing things that are universally good for bringing people together. Like, what has been like, or sorry, not what, but who has been a major influence in your life and why?
Well, it is a very good question. I would have to say this falls under the category of two main people. First and foremost would be my mom, who is a writer like me, and a darn good one at this. She writes mainly sci-fi, but her stories are just incredible. And she has far more stories than I have right now. And I have a number of stories. I mean, you don't even know how far and deep into Sky Fighters and County Crunchers I have actually planned. Just to give you an idea, the sneak preview, just to let you know, audience, there's going to be a prequel novel. This is right,
Nice.
there's going to be a prequel. It's going to be a very historical prequel. And all the events foretold in it are going to lead all the way up to the events of the first novel, which Josh, you've already read, right?
Yep. And I was like, well, I'm excited about that. I was actually going to ask you later, and I will still ask you later about, diving into some of those like side stories, like you said, kind of a prequel. And now you said there's two people that influence you. So your mom and who else?
This next one, of course, would be my grandfather, Ray Eberle. Unfortunately, I've never had the chance to meet him because he died about maybe a decade more or less before I was born. But he has been a very influential man on my life, as well as my mom's life, and the lives of everyone else in my family. There are a lot of people in my family who actually like to sing his songs, and they like to sing other songs. And I'm very glad to say I'm now one of them. In fact, my grandfather is so proud of my singing, he actually appeared before me in a dream in spirit form.
Nice. Interesting.
Oh, yeah.
So, and what was that all about then?
Oh, well, it was kind of like a long dream, but I was on this cruise ship. My mom and I were on the cruise ship, and he actually used to actually do singing on cruise ships, but he grew on a cruise ship.
Yeah.
And I was going to do a performance. I had practiced enough of his songs to be able to do a performance. So the people who were in charge of the auditorium on the ship, or whatever, the room on the ship I was going to sing in, they asked me to sing a sample of one of his songs. And I asked them which one, and they said, sing it last, sing it last. So I did, and then the dream shifted. Apparently the show was an outstanding success, and I was back home with my mom, and we happened to have a record player, and decided to put the last song on so I could sing it again. And there was my grandfather all of a sudden in the room. He was an older gentleman in spirit form, and while I was singing, he actually started dancing with me, and we were all happy to see him, and this was really it.
Nice. I was like, well, what, and just I love that just connection. Like I said, I just love connections with people and connecting with people, and that connection with family is such a powerful. I love that you get that opportunity to like you said, your mom is a writer and you're a writer, and it's just nice to have that that connection together. So now I connect with you. I connect with you on the level of like say like video games, right? I love video games, and I know you do too. So what games do you love?
Oh, well, there's actually a few I love, and there's at least one which I don't play anymore. I'll start with the ones I love the most first. The biggest one has to be The Elder Scrolls Online. I'm
Nice.
sure you've heard of, yeah, I'm sure you've heard of The Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim. Forstura!
I was like, I used to be an adventurer, and then I took an arrow in the knee, so I haven't played in a while.
This is what happened to me in Skyrim. I used to be an adventurer and then took an arrow to the knee, and now I've gone back in time because in the Elder Scrolls Online, it actually takes place way earlier, like many centuries earlier. And my character in the Elder Scrolls Online is obviously not a Nord, he's a Khajiit. And this is my first time actually playing as a character who is technically an anthropomorphic, half person, half cat. But I love him. I have developed his abilities far beyond what I thought they would be developed. And they just recently had an update where they changed the champion point system, and I've been just working on advancing this as much as I can. So
nice.
Yeah.
Well, don't take an arrow to your knee from the bow though.
No, trust me, I will be very, very safe.
So like, well, all right, like, well, I know there's. I'll talk video games with you all day, but we were like, we want to make sure we're limited in time. So I'm just curious, like, do any of the games that you play, from like you said, Elder Scrolls, and I know you play others as well. It's like, do any of those games kind of influence your writing?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Again, sorry for repeating myself. I'm on the air, so I'm going to do the best I can here. There is another game I used to play up until recently. It was called Star Trek Online.
Oh, I love Star Trek Online.
Oh, yeah. Really, really fun stuff. I just haven't liked the updates they were doing. But anyway, the way my novel series works is it is actually part sci-fi. And so in Star Trek Online, you have a captain or an admiral, if you advance this far, and they have a starship which is capable of warping. Now, in one mission, your character goes with this Romulan woman named Sela, and they go to the Andromeda Galaxy. Now, the Andromeda Galaxy features in my series, and they would have not been able to get to the Andromeda Galaxy under normal circumstances, but somehow they got there. Now, the Andromeda Galaxy in my series is influenced by this because you cannot get to it under normal circumstances. In fact, the Andromeda Galaxy, which features in my series, is not even in the same universe. So you have to use this really super advanced technology to get there. Even when you get there, you cannot just shine or travel to Evensong Land without permission from their government. They are pretty strict. They're friendly once they get to know you and you get to know them, but you cannot just go there and say, "Hey, I'm here on Evensong Land. I'm going to do whatever I want." They're gonna send the sky fighters after you, and they're going to start interrogating you.
It's like my family's from Germany. I went back to Germany. It's kind of the same way. No, you got to get a permit to do everything. So I'm joking. I was like Germany was actually really nice. So but kind of like Andromeda in a way. So here I'm going to share a couple of sentences here from the beginning of since we talked about it a little bit, and I know you love your series and just put so much passion there. You could feel that in there, and so I wanted to share just a little bit of your writing. So this is from Skyfighters Part 7, Secrets of the Past, and so I'll kind of get the first couple lines, and then we'll dive on into the series. I was like and share about it. So it begins with. So, hello there. My name is Jonathan Spencer. I hate having to interrupt Rain's great story, but he's not here to finish it right now. So, until then, my brothers and I will fill in the blanks. Midnight had struck. Dun, dun, dun. And so we begin, right? Midnight has struck. And so, tell us, like, especially for people who haven't ever heard of your series, right? Is that you spent years pouring your life and imagination into your flagship series, Skyfighters. Tell us a bit about the Skyfighters series. I know we're going to talk about it at length, so kind of give us the meat and potatoes. Kind of what is it about?
All right. Well, okay. Without saying I'm glad, I'm just going to dive right into it. But just to let you know, this character's name is pronounced Ren, not Rain, just
Oh,
so you
excuse
know.
me. So, well, all right, Ren.
Yeah. So, the meat and potatoes, here we go. This is a series the series came to me on its own, if you can believe it, in the form of a dream, if I'm not mistaken.
Interesting.
Because, oh yeah, I do dream quite a lot, and it all started out where after I had I won a bag of chips, got really lucky in school because I'm not normally this lucky. Uh, so they were homegirls potato chips, and I also found them at the Fine Fair store in Philadelphia, where I used to live, and I grew up there. And the first Skyfighters were the homegirls themselves, and I was writing down all these little short stories, all these short stories in school about how the Skyfighters would go up against the Python units. And way back then, I was only 7. Even back then, I had come up with Man Man, who is the first nemesis in the series, in this flagship series, the Skyfighters have to face off against.
Well,
And then,
I love I love just how powerful your imagination is. That literally from just going from winning a bag of chips to an entire series. That's just so incredible.
it is incredible. And what's more is, even though I have unfortunately been caught with writer's block, my characters did not leave me high and dry. If you may have noticed the in like if you have read the third novel and then you skipped over to the sixth one, you may have noticed the battle system in the sixth one, and even at the end of the fifth one, it changes really, really dramatically in a way which the numbers and the points are not so much used anymore. In fact, it's all about how the attacks are displayed, how the Skyfighters are experiencing them. These attacks are incredibly powerful. Let me just tell you, you're a human right now. You're not a Skyfighter yet, but you're a human.
So you
So
think? So you think, Ross? I'm not fully human. No,
finish saying this though, uh, no matter, like, let's take, for instance, one female character, Ramasha Neshiantos. By the time part 6 of my series comes around, she's 21 years of age, and yet she is just so incredibly powerful. And she has these really special eyes called the Wadakuran eyes. They are purple, but they're like deep medium purple eyes. And she wouldn't even have to attack you or anything. She wouldn't even have to. All she would have to do is just stare at you, and you would be in like a state of hypnosis. And then she would probably hit you with a wind attack or a sand attack. And these attacks are powerful. I'm telling you, the strongest characters in the series are capable of destroying entire planets.
yeah. Well, and that's something I found really cool about just your series, like in general, right? It's like you said, it kind of evolves over time and kind of changes, both in heroes and in like villains, and also, like you said, kind of like you have these epic battles throughout, and that's what I really loved about your series is that it was you kind of have these over the top powerful battles, and that's something I just always have enjoyed, growing up with, I grew up with video games. I grew up with anime. So I was like, I love some of that over the top, like action sometimes. And so,
I grew up with the same thing, but I grew up with video games before I was introduced to anime. And when I saw Naruto, an anime show, which I still love to this day, I loved it so much because it reminded me so much of my own series. And even though the characters in the show are called ninja instead of Skyfighters, it doesn't matter because they're still powerful, but not even the strongest Kage level ninja could contest against the strongest Maestro Skyfighters. Again, the Maestro Skyfighters can not only use planetary level devastating attacks, they can actually move and summon and even change the shape of the size of the planets themselves. And
Yeah.
this
Just
is
like me, actually.
yeah.
I can destroy planets.
Haven't seen anything you can do yet. Just
Yeah.
the audience is too late.
Hey, we'll demonstrate it at the end of this. You know, with my samurai sword and your bow, we're gonna blow up the moon or something. And so like for you, like
we're gonna wreck the earth.
so like, all right, well, so for you, like you mentioned a little bit, but like how is your series really like changed over time? You talked about even some like the battle systems, and tell us a bit about the characters too while you're at it.
Well, here is one really notable change, which has made me just love the series this much more. I mean, I am my character, and my characters are me. And when I first started writing the series out, I had mainly a lot of male characters, and I made them super powerful. And then, starting with the second novel, I started introducing more powerful female characters, and then they didn't, these women, though they were exceptionally powerful, they were not at the forefront of the series until around part 4, and then they started getting more attention because they were getting stronger, and some were even more powerful than the male characters. By the time of the 6th and 7th novel, the female characters could not only hold their own against the male characters, but there was few of them who even surpassed the male characters in terms of their power and their capabilities. And what I really like about the female characters is the fact I consider them to be faster than male characters because, well, they tend to have more dexterity and everything, and they can outrun the male. A lot of them can outrun a lot of the male characters a lot of the time. And so the male characters have more strength. So, but strength might not necessarily be enough to win a battle in terms of Skyfighters. This is just one notable change.
Nice. And so like was there any like, especially like plot wise too, like because over the course of it too, they find new enemies and as well, and so like was there ever a time though where things in the story were going to be like drastically different? Like was there ever a time that it like really shifted where it was like I was originally not going to have this in space, or like I was originally going to have like way different enemies, or was there any ever a time where it was like super different than what it became?
Well, I believe so, yes. I mean, if I can just explain how, if I have not time, I hope I do, I'll try to make it fast and speedy. There were 4 parts to the series originally in the very early days, and the 5th part didn't start getting developed until I was around 15, 16, or 17 years old, and I didn't, back then, I wasn't, before then rather, I wasn't sure how far the series was going to go. And it didn't actually start to shape up to become the 8-part series. So there's going to be 8 parts, and I have only just recently finished chapter 8 of the 8th novel, only just today.
Nice. Well, congratulations.
Congratulations. Thank you so much. And this, just so because you love epic battles, there was a hell of an epic battle in this chapter, and it had a thrilling conclusion, just thrilling. So I guess what I'm saying is my series changed because it changed in 2 ways. The first way I've already explained to you, which there were only going to be 4 books, and then now there's going to be 8. And then I had a pretty close friend in high school. His name's David, and he decided we sort of like collaborated together. We came up with a new enemy for the Skyfighters and Houndy Crunchers to have to deal with. The Next Step Party. I don't know if you read about them or not, but they're an enemy, a foe, which is in sort of in the background for now. But we're going to the audience is most definitely going to see them in combat for sure.
Nice. Well, all right. So, tell us a bit about the villains in your story, and like what makes the good guys good, and what makes the bad guys bad.
All right. Well, this is going to be an awesome question to answer. All right. So the good guys are good because they're most of the Skyfighters, I'm sure you've noticed, are just ordinary humans, people from Earth, and they were handpicked. Master Montecato, when he came to Earth, he wanted to make sure he selected only the kindest, the most benevolent people he could think of. And he contacted them, and he decided it would be greatest if a human female would be the new leader of the Skyfighters, because there hadn't been any Skyfighters for hundreds of years. And now, since not all of the good guys are ultimately good, some of them are actually chaotic good. I don't know if you've seen on some games there are some characters who are chaotic neutral, good neutral, chaotic evil.
I come from a Dungeons and Dragons background, so I was always chaotic neutral.
Very interesting. I'm sure you would have been a good part of the Slayer Triumvirate. Now on to the bad guys. Now, I'm going to make a reference to both Naruto and Boruto. Boruto is the successor show of Naruto and Kane Chronicles. Now, the way the Python demons are in the first half of the series, you don't actually get to see them get real deadly serious until the fourth novel, which I don't think you've read yet, but you might very like to. And the Python demons could be comparable to some of the characters, some of the really bad guys in the original Naruto series, and even in Naruto Hurricane Chronicles and Boruto. You see, there is this organization in Boruto called the Kara. They're like super bad guys, and they are monstrously powerful. And the Python demons kind of mirror those bad guys, which they're monstrously powerful, but they try to, there's this one guy named Deepa, and Boruto, Sarada, and Mitsuki have a really hard time defeating him because he's not even going all out on him, and he's acting like the whole battle's a joke, and he hasn't even shown them his full power. Deepa still manages to defeat these three innocent Genin kids, children, and the Python demons, especially in the first half of the series, are like they're not showing just how terribly powerful they are, and this is why the Skyfighters have to train and have to battle against each other, because in the Skyfighters and Houndy Cruncher series, there's the only enemies which are as powerful as the Skyfighters themselves are the Python demons. And the Skyfighters just never know when the Python demons are going to strike.
It's nice. Well, I just love having those ultimately powerful bad guys to face off with the ultimately powerful heroes. And so, for you though, you personally, I know you love your whole series, but which character was the most fun for you to craft personally?
Well, I would have to say this is a very close tie. Although if I have to pick just one, I would have to say it is Holly Crawford. She is this happy-go-lucky, red-haired young woman and you haven't read about her yet. So I can't tell you her relationship to the other
Okay.
characters yet, but she is happy-go-lucky, fiery, red-haired woman. Her hair is fiery, not her attitude. She becomes a sky fighter. I'll say this much because she really just she just wants to be happy and she wants to have friends. And so she meets one of the sky fighters and they form a relationship, a good relationship, and it lasts throughout the whole series. And then she also befriends this other sky fighter's friend. And by the time part 6 comes along, there's this group of people, a big group of people. There's Gregoroff, Ramasha, Grant and Maya, and they're all, and plus Holly and the sky fighter she met. And I'm sure you already know who this is. Seeing as how you've read the 6th novel already, and they travel a lot together. They meet new people along the way, and they grow out their friendships. It's sort of like the expanding friendships. It's like Naruto. He doesn't have really any friends at first, and then he gains more and more friends, and he gets more powerful thanks to the help of his friends. I really, really do love this concept, and I think Masashi Kishimoto Sensei did a wonderful job when he shaped Naruto Uzumaki the way he did.
Nice. Well, and like you just have this great epic series, and kind of right from the get go, you sort of had this idea for 8 novellas, and like and but now you also are talking about like that having that prequel, right? Do you have any plans for extending your series to 9 or creating any spin-off stories in your series?
Oh yeah. Oh man, this is the best, probably about the best question you've asked me. Not only is it a spin-off in addition to this prequel, but this spin-off is going to be what I call a spin-off slash continuation. It's gonna it's gonna pick up the story where it leaves off at the end of part 8. There's going to be new characters, new locations. Well, maybe not new locations, maybe 1 or 2 new locations. And there's going to be a new storyline, and of course, at least a couple of new enemies, foes for the sky fighters to have to contend with.
Nice.
So
It's nice. And so like if you had to like go back and like with the series you've created so far is like, and if you had to turn it into a different media than books, like if you had to turn it into a movie or video game or comic, what medium would you love to see it turned into?
all right. Well, I've been thinking about this one myself for a while, and I think it would make a really swell half-hour TV show, especially
Nice.
when you get this 9th novel. Because in this novel, it's gonna be a little easier because in the 9th novel, a lot of the characters are gonna be clashing with melee attacks, which are exchanging punches and kicks and everything. But there's still going to be plenty of traditional attacks too to contend with. So I would want it to be like a live action half-hour TV show, like kind of like the Power Rangers, but not. Yeah, I want it to be distinctly different. I want it to be more serious because I grew up watching the first 2 or 3 or 4 iterations of the Power Rangers, and it seemed rather corny to me. I know they were trying to be a little comical to ease out the tension, but this is, I mean, my series does have its funny moments, but it's not corny like the Power Rangers. It's just, I think it would just make an awesome TV show. And there have been people who have told me, movie, and I think to myself, yeah, but the the thing about movies is once you've seen them, if you rewatch them again, you can only watch them again and again so many times. But if it's a TV series and it has episodes, kind of like the Power Rangers or even Game of Thrones, then there's always something to look forward to for a good number of seasons. And this would this series would have at least 8 seasons, if not 9, if you include this Chronicles project, which I've already started writing, by the way.
Nice.
But I'm finishing the original. Thanks. I'm finishing the original series before I get to work on the Chronicles project.
Well, get on it. I was just joking, Ross. I was like, you've already done like you. I just think it's amazing you've put so much work into this series and really fleshed it out, which is great. And so,
I just want to say before we get into this, the really unique thing about Chronicles is going to be told from the story of a number of different characters, at least several different characters, rather than just one character or a few characters.
Nice. It'll be kind of like a Percy in a sense, like that. So, well, like I I could definitely see it as a show too. I was like, I always got the. You mentioned Naruto, which is a kind of a good comparison, and kind of a Voltron vibe, and it really feeds well into that kind of episodic, and I think that would make a really cool show. Like, so what for you, like if they're like, what's an existing franchise that you would love to write a story in if they came and asked you to, like, so like whether it's like a movie or a book or a video game or whatever, like what's an existing series that if they came to you and said, Ross Eberle, write something in it, like what would be one you would love to write for?
This is kind of a tough one because there's so many good series out there, but if I had to select just one, and this all depends. I got to ask you a question in order to get to answer this one. Would it have to be a TV or movie series, or could it also be a book series?
Oh, it could be a book series too.
All right, well, good, because then I would have to say it would be really swell if I could either do my own take on not the Percy Jackson book, the Kane Chronicle. If I could do my own take on the Kane Chronicle. I haven't finished reading the Kane Chronicles trilogy yet, but I think Sadie Kane is just amazing. She's just so awesome. And even though she doesn't seem to be quite as powerful as her brother Carter, I would love to do this, and I would love to have them take a side trip into the United States or the island or something like this, a country where there's mountains and forests, and have them like go on like a hiking adventure where they have to fight bad guys or foes along the way. And if I could not do this, then I would most definitely want to do. There's this series which a really special girl introduced me to. It's called, the name of this book series is Secret, and I've only read the first 2 books, but the characters in it are just really likable too. They're both, well, there's a few of them. I don't remember their names. In fact, I don't want to spoil the story. Besides, the characters probably wouldn't appreciate me spilling out their information, but it's a really good series so far, and it would be really great if I could expand on it. Maybe have these characters in this Secret series take a trip to my series, like a
crossover. That'd be cool. Yeah, well, and you even mentioned like not Percy, but it's connected to Percy, the Kane Chronicles, and I do get some of that vibe as well in your own writing, which is cool because I love those series, by the way, too. Rick Riordan is a fantastic author as well, and so what for you though? Like, oh, sorry, what?
He's one of my Rick Riordan. He's one of my influences.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say it comes off well too in your own writing, and so what would be your advice though we have a lot of like aspiring authors and young authors that watch our channel, and so what would be like one piece of walk away writing advice you would love to give them before we get into reading some pages from your book?
All right. Well, you know the saying, keep on talking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I say keep on writing. Don't
Yes.
ever give up. Yeah, don't ever give up. Keep on writing. Keep on writing. Keep on writing.
Just don't do the both at the same time. Don't truck and write at the same time. You might crash.
Oh, yeah, I would definitely not recommend this at all. And also listen to your characters, because even though you are your characters and your characters are you, these characters are very real to me, and every writer should know which their characters are real set, and they have real personalities, and they should listen to their characters the way I listen to mine when I changed up the battle system and made it so the characters would not run off into hiding and leave me with writer's block. I don't know where the series would be if I hadn't listened to them and if they were with me every step of the way like they are today and tonight.
Nice. I was like, yeah, I will take that advice as well when I have writer's block, which I currently do. So, all right, let's dive on in to your like a couple of pages, and this is from part 7, right? So Skyfighters part 7. Okay.
Part 7, Secrets of the Past.
Nice. Okay, so and just set the scene for our audience, and you know, Ross, I think what we'll do is I'll actually let you play the characters, so you'll read just all their dialogue parts, and I will dramatically narrate all the other stuff that he marveled and still holding and all that, and so. Set the stage, set the scene for our audience who hasn't had a chance to read stuff. Like, tell us kind of what's going on and kind of who these people are.
All right. Well, audience, this is a sample chapter from Skyfighters Part 7. In this chapter, Gregoroth, Ramasha, Maya, and Brent have just made a deal with an older but still quite attractive woman by the name of Vixen. And she lives in seclusion on this farm, and she has just agreed to provide them with a certain scroll, like a map scroll. And Gregoroth has had to pay quite a substantial amount of money for her to give him the key to her silo. It looks like a grain elevator, but it's a silo. Now, he is about to attempt to unlock the silo and gain access to the scroll so they can use it to gain access to a more powerful attack.
Nice.
Which, yeah.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so let's see if they are able to gain access to the scroll. The dramatic reading begins, and like I said, you get to be all the characters, you get to have the fun there, and I'll dramatically narrate everything in between. Got it?
Do our very best.
All right, it's gonna be fun. All right, here we go. And scene. Ramasha, Maya, and Brent bid Vixen farewell and watched her use a psychic hand spell to open her front door and head back inside. Maya wondered why she did this. As Gregoroth approached the silo, he stared up at it, noticing it was much taller than it appeared from a distance.
Whoa, what a structure!
He marveled. And still holding the smuggler's key, Gregoroth used it to unlock the rusty iron door. Then, with a grunt of effort, Gregoroth slid the door open. It made a loud creak as he did.
Oi, say, now this is a heavy door,
he remarked before stepping in the darkness of the silo. After he was inside, the door made a softer creaking sound as it slid back shut with a resounding click. He gasped and glanced back, then sighed when he realized the door was designed to stay closed. The pitched roof had a couple of holes in it where the sun shone through. There were a few shelves and walkways lining the upper level where various old burlap sacks rested. A single small triangular stained glass window let a little extra light in.
Okay, so where is it? Ah!
Gregoroth said as he cried out. A small Geotosian mink landed on his shoulder from one of the walkways and ran away, chattering.
Oh, don't scare me, little guy or girl,
Gregoroth yelped out. As he began to climb the ladders leading up to the shelves above, the real Vixen squatted on a tree branch in the distance, watching the granary silo, eyes narrowed. The Vixen who went into the farmhouse was just a three-dimensional holograph. This Vixen wore a shorter, dark skirt with tight black leggings and a close-fitting black long-sleeved knitted shirt. Another Geotosian mink was perched on her right shoulder. In her left hand was a scepter which had a long quartz diamond head on top. What Maya forgot to mention was the fact Vixen and most members of her family were capable of using psychokinetic and elemental abilities to manipulate buildings to their will. It was their version of a truly unique secret power.
Aha! There's the scroll.
Gregorath gladly proclaimed upon spotting it on a high shelf near the roof. As he climbed up the final ladder, Vixen could see his outline, as her eyes were just as capable of seeing into such buildings as a skyfighter who awakened the Tazakuran or Eyes of the Hawk Level 2. And neither Gregorath, Ramasha, Maya, nor Brent knew she was hiding up here in this tall, thick, half-oak, half-birch-like tree. If she so desired, Vixen could completely destroy the granary silo using dust explosion. All she'd have to do is create a remote spark by slamming her scepter on a hard surface and kablamo! She said softly to herself while considering the repercussions of such an action. After a moment, she decided it would be too great of a risk, though she still wanted to stir things up for the visitors. Therefore, she raised her scepter slightly into the air while chanting something in Solosalish. And then, who knows what happened? You'll have to get the book and figure out. We'll have to see if they get all blown to smithereens. So I wish I had the power to manipulate buildings because I have a creaky door and I'd like close.
It's actually an idea I came up with while I was doing role play. You know what role playing is, right?
Mm-hmm, yep.
Okay, well, once many a year ago, about maybe a decade ago or so, I was doing this role play with this young woman, and I had this male character, and she was playing as Master Montecato. I don't think anyone else has ever willingly portrayed Master Montecato. And in this role play, my character and Master Montecato were quite close, very good friends. And that my idea was, which this male character would come from the same family as Vixen, and this idea also partially occurred to me in a dream. You see, I have a lot of dreams about my series, but in this dream there was no female, and there was no female until I had recently gone on to Goodreads, and I had played my author profile on there, and I found this young woman. She's younger than me, and yeah, she's written more books than me, and she has a whopping 15,000 followers on Goodreads. So I pitched the question to her. I said, "Lady, how'd you like a part of my series?" And she's like, "Okay." And she described what she wanted, and I told her how it was going to be rounded out. The next thing you know, I had it written out, and I actually sent the book to her, a free copy for her to rate and review, and she did it.
Nice.
She read the whole thing, rated it, and reviewed it with 3 stars. I don't know if the review's still on there or not, because I seem to be missing at least a couple of reviews.
Sometimes, I mean, Goodreads and Amazon could do that sometimes. They sometimes disappear, and then sometimes they just come back too. It's like, especially Amazon. Amazon can be really weird about that. And so, but how can we you mentioned like reviews, right? And you mentioned being on Goodreads, right? Like, how can we as a community support you? We're all about supporting authors on this channel and on Diabolic Shrimp, my site. So like, how can we support you? We already have your blog for Skyfighters down below. We have your Amazon author page down below. How else can we support you, Ross?
Well, Josh, probably the next best thing to do besides actually following me on my blog, which I highly recommend, would be to go onto my Goodreads profile. Just look up Ross Eberle on Goodreads. Friend me there, follow me there. By all means, please use my Ask the Author feature to ask me questions. I'm always on there. I'm very active, and I'd be only too glad to answer any and all questions my audience might have for me.
Nice. I was like, well, and for people who haven't met him, like I said, Ross is such a friendly person. So asking questions, if you feel like it, throw any questions down in the comments of this video. I'll make sure he gets them down the road. And so Ross, but what?
Am Am I doing okay? Am I handsome or what?
So you are a fantastic person, Ross. I was like, you are kind and I just I love your imagination too. I wish I had the power to have great dreams like you.
Energetic, yeah. Do you want to ask questions about my character who happens to use his bow before we sign off?
So yeah, well, let us. Well, I haven't had anyone ask any questions yet, but if you want to tell us about it, that's fine.
Okay. Well, her name is Elizabeth Sherman, and this is actually a character which is based on a person I know in real life. Sometimes I do this. I have characters based on people I know in real life, and she happens to be one of them. And I have very great plans for her. In this eighth novel, which is probably going to take me at least another year to finish. It's going to be the longest one I have by far, but in this one, this character, Elizabeth Sherman, is going to get her very own soliloquy. You're not going to want to miss it, audience.
Nice. Oh, okay, well, I was like, you heard it here first on Diabolic. So, hey Ross, it was so fantastic having you. We're just about out of time, unfortunately, and so hopefully we'll get a chance to get you back on the show a few months down the road. I'm building kind of a check-in section, so we can get authors back on here that have been on here, and we can figure out where the series went and if that grain silo actually blew up. So.
Okay, yeah, well, you'll find out for sure. Just read Skyfighters Part 7, and all the answers will be revealed. And by the way, it's not too late for you, my marvelous audience, and our marvelous audience, to become characters in my novel series. There's a form you can fill out on my Facebook page. Just go to facebook.com/The Skyfighters, and it's right there. The sign-up button is right on there.
Nice. Okay. Well, yeah. So you heard it here. You can become a character. So, well, Ross, you're a fantastic character in life, and I appreciate you. And thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Josh. Peace out to you, audience.
Well, that was Ross Eberle once again. If you want to support him, check out all of his works down below. Like he said, you could become a character if you go onto his Facebook page with the Skyfighter series. If you want to support this show and Diabolic Shrimp, diabolicshrimp.com is what this is connected to. We're a free program, so come join us. Hit that subscribe button. Leave some comments for any of our authors. We appreciate you. Any of the money I make from this and from people buying my books, I put towards good things, universally good things like ocean exploration or childhood disease research. So come buy some of my books. Also in the description down there. Come subscribe to the channel. Come check out diabolicshrimp.com. Support some other authors by checking out their works as well. But thank you very much for tuning in. This has been another Diabolic Shrimp. Have a good